I'm making a calm open world exploration game and I really want some more alien creatures. But first, there's something small I've been ignoring. These small screens on all the astronauts don't have a material right now. And although they won't have a use in-game, I still want to make it more interesting. So, since the ship is completely wrecked, I just made a texture with an error message. However, this can look much better with some glitch effects. I made 3 different effects. First of all, the screen simply flickers slightly. Then I added some screen tearing. By the way, this is all purely shader code, so the performance cost is negligible. And of course, some color separation. I don't actually know if this is the correct name for this type of glitching, so I hope that's not why you clicked on this video. To achieve this glitching and have it update at a certain interval, I took the time, multiplied it by a certain value, and then floored that value. That way the value only increases at a set interval. Finally, a simple crack randomly placed and scaled to finish it off. Much better. Now let's make some creatures. First, I had this idea for a type of fish with 3 eyes placed horizontally. My best attempt at drawing would probably be a stick figure, so instead of making a sketch of my ideas, I start with very basic blockouts, and sometimes write down notes on details I'd like to add later on. As a solo developer, this also saves me a bit of time, although I definitely recommend using concept art if you can. Then I apply all modifiers, join the objects, and finally join the geometry using the remesh option in sculpt mode. From here, I'm ready to start sculpting. I do have a drawing tablet which I use for sculpting. The natural feeling of having a pen in my hand and the pressure control have made my life a lot easier. Once I'm happy with the proportions, I start adding some details. In this case, I mainly refined the fins and added gills. The eyelids also got some more detail. Finally, for the sculpting stage, I used some texture brushes to add small surface detail. In this case, I only added some texture to the underside of the creature. At this point, the mesh probably has millions of polygons and is everything except game ready. So I did some retopology and normal detail baking to make it game ready. Finally, I textured it, rigged it, and made some animations. After importing this into my project, it's time to make it work. I've already got land and sky creatures, but no underwater creatures. To make this, I mostly use the same logic as the flying creatures, but instead of working with height, it works with depth. Each underwater creature has a minimum and maximum depth. It will then always try to stay within that range. That's pretty good, but I would really like for them to jump out of the water. Luckily, this shouldn't be that hard. Let me just... Okay, I see the problem. It isn't switching back to swimming, and of course the rotation is wrong. That should do it. So that took longer than I had hoped, but it's working now, so let's make the next creatures. For the next underwater creature, I was thinking something translucent that you only find when going relatively deep underwater. Maybe something that glows too. For this creature, I actually didn't sculpt at all, since the shader code will be doing all of the heavy lifting in terms of making it look interesting. In Unreal Engine, I spent a bunch of time trying to give this some depth and visual interest while keeping it optimized. It's not perfect, but I am pretty happy with the result. Since I imagined this creature being kinda squishy, I used spring controllers in the animation blueprint to make the tail? I don't think you can call this part the tail, but I don't know what else to call it, so it's a tail. Anyway, I used spring controllers to make the tail trail behind a little and look less solid. And after adding a point light without shadows, this is the result. For some reason, viewing it through the camera messes up the refraction, so I'll have to look into that later. I want to add one more creature this video, a large land creature that hunts one of the other creatures. Because as you might remember, I created a system so the creatures can hunt and flee each other, but right now none of them are using it. For this creature, I used the same workflow as for the first one. The design is heavily inspired by lizards. Almost all of the creatures are inspired by some kind of real-life animal. I might make some more alien-looking creatures in the future, but right now I like the balance between realistic and alien design. When I finished the creature, I imported it into Unreal Engine and set everything up so it hunts one of the other creatures. and also added some subtle spring controllers to the tail. Okay, apart from that, everything went pretty smoothly. There's one more thing I want to add. I'd really like it if some of the birds dove into the ocean to grab and eat fish. The fish for this are just static meshes with a simple shader animation. And apart from messing up the scaling at first, I got this working pretty quickly. I'm really happy with the progress I've made, so next up is making a quest system with minigames and stuff. I hope you liked the video. If the game interests you, consider following the Kickstarter, where you'll be able to get the game at a discount and early access. You can also join the Discord or subscribe. Bye.